We have a quorum, and thanks everybody for scheduling this and making time in your schedule to attend this. We had a request by the mayor's office to do this before we went down. It is not unusual at all for us to take a couple weeks to have the new committees and everything after our meeting tomorrow. It'll be another almost 2 weeks before we meet, and they were anxious to get started. And so they had requested that we do this with the idea that the Affordable Housing Commission could go ahead and begin transacting business. The reason we are here is it's been there was a request made to bring the mayor's appointments before us, and I see that our Commissioner of Affordable Housing is with us. Perhaps our former colleague April could perhaps do a little introduction of the folks. And
Okay.
Folks, thanks for coming out and joining us, our appointees. We.
Mr. Chairman.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. We need to call roll first. My apologies. Leave it to me to get everything out mixed up. Go ahead, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Kennedy,
Here.
Alderman Boyd,
Present.
Alderwoman Davis, Alderman Coder, Alderman Ogilvy,
Here.
Alderwoman Boyd,
Here.
Alderman Bosley,
Present.
Alderman Oldenburg, Chairman Rhodey.
Present.
7 present, you have 4.
Okay, now that we are properly conducting business, April, do you want to go ahead and, folks, I think what we do is we just introduce yourselves, perhaps tell a little bit about your interest in affordable housing, and then we open it up to the committee to ask questions. One of the things, April, I think we're going to be very interested in this next year is to start trying to understand what all the assets are on a local basis that are being deployed to try to deal with affordable housing. Obviously, you're one of the central pieces in that, but we have block grant money, we have the Housing Authority, we have LIHTC, and we're very interested in trying to understand that, so we'll be probably working more closely with you and hopefully your commissioners as we go forward. But why don't I turn it over to you, and you can, kind of introduce the folks for us, and we go through them one at a time, perhaps.
Sure. Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman and committee members. We have 4 reappointments today, and so all of them are eligible to be appointed for a second term. And so the mayor has presented that to the board, and it was sent to committee. We have Ms. Deanetta James, we have Ms. Gail Brown, Mr. Leonard Jones, and Stephen Foelsch. Gail Brown is running a little late. She's had an issue with her mom this morning, trying to get her. She's kind of resistant on going to daycare, so she had to call another family member. She's waiting for them to come, and and so she's still trying to get here. But you do have resume. The application, I think they sent you the first page, but I can tell you some about Gail for those of you that don't know her.
Why don't we go ahead and pick up the other 3, if that's okay, and Gail might be able to join us. I know Gail.
Yeah, she's been on a number of boards and around, and a big cheerleader for the city of St. Louis for a long time, so most people do know her. We have 11 commissioners, and as established at the Board of Aldermen back in 2001, each commissioner represents a certain segment of the St. Louis community, and then we have a couple that are just at large. And so we have Mr. Stephen Foelsch, who is representing our disability community, and so they are very helpful in that our ordinance, part of what we established under our policies, is that all of our new construction is designed with to a universal standard. And he is an expert on that. He teaches at one of our universities, and so I will let Mr. Commissioner Foelsch tell you about
Please
his
do.
background.
Tell us a little bit about your interest and how long you've been on, and then we'll open it up for questions.
My name is Steve Foelsch.
I'm a graduate of University of Missouri in Columbia. I've lived downtown for the past 12 years. I work at the Starkloff Disability Institute, which was started by Max and Colleen Starkloff. They were the founders of Paraquad, one of the first federally funded centers for independent living. I've been on the commission for 2 years now, I believe. I'm here to just see that universal design. I don't know if you all are familiar with the universal design or the concept of universal design. To see if, or to make sure that is implemented in new construction. I've met with Ms. Heiner several times, along with David Newberger, who is the Mayor's Commissioner on the Disabled, and also the co-founder of the Starkloff Disability Institute. And we've gone over some plans for construction, for new construction. Right now, I don't really have anything pressing right now. I've spoken with Mr. Newcomber from the trust fund about seeing if I could be of any assistance.
Well, thank you very much for joining us. Actually, the first universal design project in St. Louis was at the corner of Laclede and Sarah in the 17th Ward. So that's where I learned about it, almost 15 years ago, I guess. Why don't we go through the roll? Alderman Kennedy, you have any questions?
No questions.
Alderman Boyd, any questions?
No, not for Mr. Foelsch. I have a question for April. So, how long is the typical term for the commissioners?
Some are 2, some are 3.
Some are 2, some are 3?
Yeah, most of them are 3, and then you can serve 2 terms. And then if no one, if the mayor doesn't replace you, you'll serve until they replace you. You know, sometimes we have administrations to change, and then there are other issues that need to be addressed right away as far as appointing directors and commissioners. So sometimes ours, they get around to, as long as everything's running smoothly, we keep going.
Okay, so like for Ms. James and Mr. Foelsch, so I'm assuming what Mr. Foelsch said, he's been there 2 years already. But his term is going to end in 2020, so that would give him 3 years.
But it could have, exactly. So that's not from the first start. He's been there, I think it's been over 2 now. This would be the 2nd term. But depends on when they did it. If the mayor didn't reappoint him exactly before he was expired, they still make the expiration stop when it should.
Gotcha.
So they didn't give him extra time because it wasn't handled back before it expired the previous time. And so they put the dates when it expires.
Okay, so.
And we'll stick with that date.
Or all the appointments expiring on June 30th for the
No.
most part? I mean, not just these, as a
Most of them as a
commission
policy,
body.
yes, we try to do June the 30th.
Okay.
Yeah, but on alternating years so
Gotcha.
that, you know, it doesn't jeopardize us having a quorum.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. No further questions.
Alderwoman Davis.
I don't have any questions. I just want to thank you for your service. I tried to get the new Paraquat site in the 19th Ward. But I've been around for a while and helped them start the original organization, so thank you.
Alderman Ogilvy.
I don't have any questions.
Alderwoman Boyd.
No questions.
Alderman Bosley.
No questions.
I have no questions. Why don't we go ahead and entertain a motion to accept the mayor's appointee for Mr. Foelsch? Foelsch, excuse me. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Second that motion.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm a little rusty. We've been on break for a while.
We appreciate the expediency in which you're moving this along.
Okay,
know
Madam
we have
Clerk, call the
some
roll
business.
now that it's properly before us.
Alderman Kennedy,
Aye.
Alderman Boyd,
Aye.
Alderwoman Davis,
Aye.
Alderman Coder, Alderman Ogilvy,
Aye.
Alderwoman Boyd,
Aye.
Alderman Bosley,
Aye.
Alderman Oldenburg, Chairman Rhodey.
Aye.
7 aye votes.
Man, I tell you, I got a snarly committee here. They just such a stickler for detail. Madam Commissioner, who would you like to set up next?
We could go on down the line. We have Leonard Jones, we say Lenny, with us. He is representing our healthcare professional representative on the commission. And so let him come tell you about himself.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
My name's Lenny. Some people could call me Leonard, but you'd have to be my mother. So I have been on the commission now for, I think this is 2 terms.
Yes,
total.
going to the second time.
I was appointed by Mayor Slay. My background, I am the director for SEIU Healthcare, so we represent about 70,000 healthcare workers in 4 states. So I'm the Missouri State Director. We have membership here in St. Louis and Kansas City representing workers in nursing homes, in hospitals, St. Louis University Hospital, as well as home care workers. And what I bring to the table is a need. Many of our members are low and moderate income workers living in the city of St. Louis who struggle with affordable housing. So that's kind of the lens that I bring to the commission, is trying to figure out, like, you know, what are the affordable housing options, and how do we improve those, and working with the Affordable Housing Commission to do that.
Okay. All right, any questions of Lenny? Alderman Kennedy?
No questions.
Alderman Boyd?
No questions.
Alderwoman Davis?
I wanted to ask you, do you have any interaction with the Regional Health Commission?
I don't. Years ago, I served on the Connect Care Board, so I had some interplay with the Regional Health Commission at that point, but haven't probably in the last like 5-6 years.
Okay. My other question is, in the recent months, maybe just barely a year, there's been a strong outreach by the larger hospital services to do more community outreach and provide more services into this region. Are you a part of any of that?
I am not, no.
I'll make sure you are.
Okay, awesome, great,
Okay.
thank you.
Yeah, we need some people who really touch the right folks, so.
Right.
let's do that.
Good,
Okay?
great, thank you.
Thank you.
Alderman Ogilvy?
I don't have any questions. I'll just tell Mr. Jones to keep up the good work he's doing.
Yeah, that's really a good job.
Alderwoman Boyd?
No question.
Alderman Bosley?
No questions.
I have one question, Lenny. I know that Nancy Cross and your union has historically been very interested in a lot of public transportation issues.
Right.
One of the things that I think is going to be kind of interesting for our committee as we go forward, I'm interested, and I hope other committee members will be this next year, trying to evaluate the trade-off between, you know, the different ways that we can allocate resources. In other words, you know, I would presume our subsidy per new unit of construction for affordable housing is probably 40 or 50,000, yet we have many thousands of households in St. Louis that are, for example, living in housing that has a market value of below 25,000. That, to me, kind of says we need to start thinking about allocation of scarce resources.
Right.
One of the things that I'm been very interested in is the relationship of transit versus the cost of housing. In other words, we have affordable housing that's not perhaps at a very good location, whereas if we would improve transit to that. Anyway, I'm bringing it up not necessarily to, you know, ask you a question, I guess, but I think it's an interesting opportunity to begin better understanding the relationship between cost of housing and cost of transportation and the potential of creating homeownership opportunities if we can create better transportation. Am I making myself clear?
Yeah, and I think what's interesting about the Affordable Housing Commission, and there is part of the guidelines, is for at least new development, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's to place it amongst kind of the transportation hubs. So we're creating developments near places of adequate public transportation. Then I guess the next question is how do you prioritize dollars to go to where folks live already that maybe aren't on those hubs to help out with?
Which is, I think, kind of what North-South was talking, the
Right.
North-South connector was
Right.
talking about.
Right.
And, that whole idea of perhaps incrementally increasing or improving transportation to some of our neighborhoods, which would then take housing that is really very inexpensive. And
Right.
quite frankly, it's so inexpensive that, it's creating hardship for a lot of the residents there. Is there anyway, I think that whole thought process needs to be examined, on a regional basis, and your union, because of its historic role in, both of these areas, affordable housing and transportation, I think would be kind of an interesting group to help understand that.
Right, okay, great.
Anyway, more of a comment than a question, I guess, but
I'll just add to that, if I can, Mr. Chairman, is one of the things that the commissioner expressed, so we have the ability to make priorities for how we spend our funds. And so we have made it a priority that with the proposals for housing, the creation of housing units, that they are within a half mile of a frequent bus service line, because we recognize that there are many studies that support for people to move upward, they need to be near good public transportation to get to jobs, to get to schools, and the things that they need to get to. So if your proposal puts you within a shorter distance to a public transportation line, and then you are given preference in your application. One thing also we know in terms of talking about the cost is that for every dollar that we spend on housing, we have leveraged $17 to $18 of private funds. And so we do work hard to make sure our money's leveraged so that we can create more units. But in our city, we know that people are very cost burdened, even severely burdened. And so you have a good majority of renters spending 50 to 70% of their household income on rent and utilities. And so that is a major issue. And so, as I have spoken before, when we talk about the housing crisis, you really got to look at all the segments of our life that are causing people to live in lack and live in poverty. So it really has to be us addressing poverty and the cause of poverty to get to the change in the quality of life for the individuals. And that's going to take looking at many things on top of the public transportation, looking at the high unemployment rate, the lack of training and skilled workers, education, lack of health care in our communities, lack of places to shop, places to get the services we need in our communities that are very distressed. And so while we build many of the bricks and mortars, the thing I love about the Affordable Housing Commission, which is why we also don't try to conform to some of the other entities' standards, being that ours is funded through tax dollars and not HUD, we have the flexibility to look at the grassroots causes of why our communities are in the condition they're in and address them. And when the legislation was crafted, they talked about things such as addressing the social issues and addressing education of people, dealing with keeping them from becoming homeless, deal with homeless prevention, deal with home repair, deal with accessibility, look at, are we creating entry-level jobs? Are we creating opportunities for minorities? A wide range of things is what we are commissioned to look at. And so I think that positions us very well to try to improve the quality of life. But once again, we are just a small drop in a bucket, but we take it seriously and we work to do the best we can do and have the greatest impact with the resources that we receive.
Thank you. Your next person you want to bring up, April?
Okay, you need to, oh, you don't, no.
I move we approve the mayor's nomination
Second.
for
Previous role.
Mr. Leonard Jones to the Affordable Housing Commission.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
I'm ready to turn over the
Okay.
gavel to somebody else
We
here.
have, that's
Thank
all
you.
right, we have,
gonna get
Miss Deanetta James with us. Some of you do know Miss James, she's been around.
They said previous.
Oh, I
Oh,
didn't hear that.
okay, I'm sorry. She's been working in the community in the city of St. Louis for a very long time. She is serving on our commission in her second term. I've had the privilege of working with Ms. James in our neighborhood organization, as well as she worked in a couple of our senior buildings that were developed by McCormick Barron. We were able to get them to provide a caseworker in the building, and so, which was not the norm, and we don't have many of them, but, and we do need more. And so, I will let Ms. James tell you about some of the work she's done over the
Okay.
years in the community.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
My name is Deanetta Lewis James. I worked with Family Services for 30 years as a community outreach worker. And after I retired, I was a committee woman for the 5th Ward. I also worked with I was a social service worker for 2 senior citizen buildings, Cochran and Cahill, for 20 years. I also worked with April and Sal Martinez in the community for years and years and years, serving my community. I always tell my son I'm working with the senior citizens. He said, "You have the nerve to say you work with senior citizens." I said, "Yes, I am." But it's been a pleasure, and I was overwhelmed when April asked me to join this board, Affordable Housing, through Mayor Slay. And I am still working with senior citizens, taking them on trips. I'm in the process of taking them on a trip with Ollie Stewart, Bring It Together, if you're familiar with that. My 2 senior citizen buildings, Cochran and Cahill. So if you all have any funds, I'd like to.
Yeah, you work with all,
Yes, I need funds for transportation. And I am also the widow of Percy James, the world's greatest musician. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
All right, any questions for Ms. James? Alderman Kennedy?
No questions, but thank you for this.
Alderman Boyd?
Yes, Ms. James is certainly a legend in her own right. She's donated hundreds and thousands of hours to the city of St. Louis, so thank you for your service.
Alderwoman Davis?
Well, I want to first thank you for all your service. You have been one who never sat down.
Yes.
And I first met you when I was a naive social worker for the state of Missouri. And I appreciate all the guidance that you gave me there. And you have served our community extremely well. I mean, when I say extremely, extremely well. And hopefully, as you look at this opportunity, somehow you guys will find a way to kind of force us to have affordable housing in every ward. We are extremely lacking in many wards, and when I say extremely, when you got less than 100 affordable units in a ward,
Yes.
somebody needs to get busy.
Yes.
Okay, so I am, I'm a strong proponent, but most people didn't want Habitat homes. I'm on my
Absolutely.
ninth bill,
Absolutely.
okay, because I believe in it.
Yes.
It helps people. So I'm very excited about you being in that position, because I know that you will speak up.
Yes, thank you.
So thank you.
Alderman Ogilvy,
No questions.
Alderwoman Boyd.
I don't have any questions, I just have comments because I see you kind of went down the same path I did to get to where you at with the Federation and Urban League.
Serving your community.
Yeah, and so, my question is, do you have, and it's probably for all of the people that's sitting on the committee, do you all have any vision for the new year on what you want to accomplish?
Well, my vision is to see more street people in housing,
Okay.
okay, and mental health. That is my vision. And to continue work with the seniors, which I'm a senior myself, because the seniors have no activities in their housing. There's no, when I was a social worker there, we had activities all the time. But there aren't any more social workers, and they don't have anything to do. They're just sitting around. And every chance I get, I do input whatever I can for the seniors to help them.
Okay,
So that is my vision, really, for the homeless and the mental health.
good, that's our vision in the board, so that's why I was asking, and I'm happy to say we just started a senior program,
Yes,
so we getting our seniors out on trips.
yes.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you. Yes.
Alderman Bosley, any questions?
No, sir.
I see. Alderman Oldenburg?
No
any
questions.
minutes? No questions? Hearing no questions, the chair will entertain a motion for.
So moved.
Second.
Previous roll.
Oh,
What was the name
Oh,
of the
I'm
senior
sorry.
group?
Beg pardon?
What was the name of the senior group that you got to take on a trip?
Cahill Senior Citizen Building.
So who do we make something out to give?
Beg pardon?
Who do I make something out to give for the trip?
Make donation to Ollie Stewart.
Let me check out the individual.
Southside Wellness.
Southside Wellness.
Southside Wellness,
Yes.
okay.
okay, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Kennedy,
Aye.
Alderman Boyd,
Aye.
Alderwoman Davis,
Aye.
Alderman Coder, Alderman Ogilvy, Alderwoman Boyd,
Aye.
Alderman Bosley,
Aye.
Alderman Odenberg, Chairman Rhodey.
Aye.
7 aye votes.
All right, all right, next up.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone, thank you for your services. We have our.
Can we
last-
come back next month? You just ask and you get started. Is this how this, y'all work now?
Can come back every month.
Gail, you want to grab a seat up there? Grab a hot seat.
Thank you. So we have, our last reappointment request is Gail Brown. Some of you know her, have had pleasure of working with her, and so she is in the second term. We'd like to ask for a reappointment, and I'll let her just, what we've been doing is telling them about yourself and your background.
Okay, first of all, I'm gonna take a deep breath.
All right.
We got the word.
Tell them it was a challenge, and let them know you're working with your mom, get her all situated.
So you always have to have Plan A and Plan B, and so Plan B just took a little bit longer than I had anticipated, so I apologize and thank you for your patience. I just want to first start off with our mission. The mission of the Affordable Housing Commission to promote city living and neighborhood stabilization through the preservation and production of affordable, accessible housing and support services that enhance the quality of life for those in need. My history, I believe that is who I am. I am second generation real estate broker, city of St. Louis. We started in the Fairgrounds Park neighborhood, our real estate company, and from those beginnings, it has been our mission to assist those who are looking for home ownership opportunities and to find affordable and accessible housing. So to be a part of this commission is only in line with my own mission. I think that as I came in, I heard our executive director speak to it is, the Affordable Housing Commission with our $5 million budget is good that we've gotten it up to 5 million, but it is only part of the solution, and we definitely need more funds and availability to provide more housing in all of the wards, as I heard Alderman Davis say, because on Friday I was a part of a group, Equal Housing Opportunity Council, where we talked about inclusionary housing, and in some of our wards that are south of Del Mar, there's not enough housing, affordability, and accessibility. And in order for us to appreciate all the values in the wards, we have to work more towards integration, and that will improve property values in all of the wards. So there is a lot to be done, but everything that we are doing is within our mission. And what I appreciate most about the Affordable Housing Commission is that it allows for opportunities for large entities as well as small entities to be a part of the process. And the hands-on support that the office offers, especially I want to speak to Loretta Heiner, who works with anyone who puts in an application and feels that they need to have an understanding of the process. So I have been serving on the commission for a while, and I would like to continue. There have been several commissions that I have removed myself from because I felt like I was not as effective as I could be, and I did not have that passion as I do for this one. So I would like to continue on with this commission.
Thank you, Gail. Any questions of Gail? Alderman Kennedy?
No, we certainly can feel your passion from your statements. I just want everyone to realize she is from the 18th year.
She belongs to me too.
Rubbing it in.
In case anyone was not clear.
You see, he marked it all.
Yes.
Hey, this is my ward, okay.
This is my alderman.
Alderman Boyd?
I just want you to help me understand, after 16 years, why are you not in the 22nd marketing our community?
I market it. In fact, actually, 2732 Bird. I have that listed now, and I'm working on selling it.
Okay.
I showed it this weekend.
Okay, well, I'll go ahead
So,
and vote for you.
yeah, thank you.
You're doing something over there, okay?
Thank you.
Alderman Davis?
Well, you know how I feel about you, because I've known you so long, back when your dad was really pushing the real estate office in Fairgrounds, all of that, and what you've done on the corner of Delmar and Walton. You all really put a very viable business there on that corner.
Thank you.
And your family's been so active in Central Baptist Church, and it just goes on and on. So we know who you are. We know you have a great heart. But not only that, you are extremely versed in urban planning. And I recognize that. So we appreciate you wanting to serve. And thank you.
Thank you.
Alderman Ogilvie, I believe, stepped out. Alderwoman Boyd?
You know how I feel. Thank you, Slade.
Thank you.
Alderman Bosley?
No questions.
Alderman Ogilvie?
No questions.
Gail's been very active in the 17th Ward over the years
Here
as
we
well.
go again.
Right.
Jeffrey?
Carrie, she certainly has an in with a number of the committee members here today. So at this point, the chair will entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second, previous row.
Previous row.
Hearing no objection, it looks like we got four Commissioners.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Before we break up, are you all limited to new construction, or can you do
No, we do,
home
we
repair
do,
too?
Yeah. repair.
we have home repair under the grants, but then we do rehab.
We're
Yeah,
adjourned,
for
everybody, I'm
sale.
sorry.